I'm Ginger Nelson, and welcome to Tea Time. Today I have Nancy Bryan on the show with me, and she is with Ruth's Cottage and the Patty Cake House. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Now, y'all have your biggest fundraiser coming up, and it is, what is it called?
Champions of Hope, Sporting Clays Tournament.
That's right. And y'all have been having this every year for what?
This is the 14th annual event. It's the single fundraiser of our organization, so we really count on it to be successful.
Well, before we talk about that, let's talk about the Patty Cake House and how it got started, and Ruth's Cottage and how it got started. The difference between them, because I know a lot of people
get confused and think we're separate organizations when it's just one. It goes back all the way to the early 2000s, and a group of strong-willed women, never underestimate the power of, along with some help from some men too. They got together and decided to act on the need of our judicial circuit of Tift, Turner, Irwin, and Worth counties to provide services for people that were experiencing domestic violence and child abuse. There was just not any resources for anybody in those situations. So they got together and formed the Tifton Judicial Circuit Shelter Incorporated, doing business as Ruth's Cottage and the Patty Cake House. So they started with Ruth's Cottage, the domestic violence prevention program, and as part of Ruth's Cottage, the program offers an emergency DV shelter and also a 24-hour-a-day, 7-day-a-week crisis line open to anybody who's either in need of emergency shelter, but not only that they may feel threatened, someone stalking them, harassing them. They call that same number and they receive help. Because in addition to the shelter and the crisis line, we also offer legal advocacy. We have 2 full-time legal advocates, and they are not at the shelter, but they work on behalf of anyone that calls that crisis line and needs some help to get what a lot of people refer to as restraining orders. We call them temporary protective orders. So if someone's stalking them or harassing them or has hurt them and they want to force them out of their home or force them to stay away from them, then there's a process that our legal advocates can take them through. They're not lawyers, but they are familiar with the legal process of getting that protection. So that is a big, huge part of what we do through Ruth's Cottage. And then in 2005, the additional program of the Patty Cake House was added. And the Patty Cake House is a child advocacy center. A lot of people don't understand what that is and think that there are children that stay at the Patty Cake House like the shelter houses folks, and that is not the case. What they do at the Patty Cake House is forensic interviewing of children who've been identified as either being severely physically abused, sexually abused, or they also serve children who've been witness to chronic domestic violence or some kind of violent crime such as a homicide. And that happens more often than people would like to think.
Especially right here in our area.
It does. And so at the Patty Cake House, the child comes with their non-offending caregiver, and they are interviewed by our forensic interviewer, Melissa Wood, and it is recorded so that the testimony of that child through the interview could be used to prosecute the perpetrator of the abuse. And so we do those interviews only on behalf of referrals from DFACS, Child Protective Services investigators, and law enforcement investigators. So if someone said, "Oh, I think my granddaughter is being abused, can I bring them to the Patty Cake House?" We would say no. We would tell them to call the Child Abuse Hotline and to take action. But they only come to the Patty Cake House once that they've gone through law enforcement or DFACS and they've identified them to have the more serious levels of child abuse.
Gotcha.
And so it's an investigative part. Melissa does the interview, and while she's doing that, we have another staff member who interviews the non-offending caregiver. And we use that title because it's not always a parent that brings the child in. Sometimes the parent is the one who's been a part of the abuse. So it could be another family member or a foster parent. And the staff member interviews them, and we provide supportive services to them to help them through the process. And so that's what the Patty Cake House does.
Well, let me ask you this. With the Patty Cake House, how many kids do you think you may interview in a year?
In 2015, we interviewed 125 children. It was an increase from the previous 2 years. So we are seeing an increase. Melissa tells me that we're seeing an increase of young boys coming through, and we're also seeing an increase of situations where the abuser is also a child themselves, maybe a teenager. And sometimes she has seen children who were abused and had an interview years ago, and they're now coming back as the abuser.
Oh, my.
If the kids don't get the help that they need early when it happens, then that sometimes can turn some into being abusive themselves.
Really?
It's sad.
It is sad. And so we had over 100 last year. I mean, that is, especially for our little area, you just don't realize that it's going on right around you.
That's very true. Melissa has interviewed children who have one recently whose mother was killed right in front of him. And there are children that she's interviewed that have witnessed other children being sexually abused. And they've watched horrible things. And the act of being a part of that, even though they haven't been touched themselves, is still very, very damaging.
Yeah, traumatizing.
Yeah, and there is more in our community than people would know. And those are just 125 kids that we found out about.
Yeah.
So it's kind of frightening to think of what we don't know.
Yeah. I'm sure a lot's not turned over.
Yeah, but the good news is that what happens at the Pancake House helps law enforcement and helps the prosecutors to make cases, hopefully, that get that person put away so that they can't do this to anybody else. So we try to look at the positive side, that once brought into the open, then steps can be taken to make things better for everybody all around.
Yeah. I know that your job is probably hard on some days.
Well, as the administrator, I try to be very aware of what my staff needs to make sure that they practice self-care, because it's really very difficult emotionally. And I'm amazed at what they do that I don't have to do, but I'm aware of. So I'm real interested in doing everything I can as the director to give the staff the tools they need to do things better, to ask law enforcement and other partners of us, what can we do at Roost Cottage and Pancake House to make your jobs easier, and to also reach out to the community to educate them. We have legal advocates who are trained to do presentations on teen dating violence, and that is something people don't know a lot about. But these folks that end up as adults being hurt or even killed by their partners, in a lot of the cases, they're married and their relationship started as teenagers. And there are things that happen in the dating phase that are signs and indicators that that person, usually male, is going to just escalate and do worse as they get older. A lot of these folks are in long-term relationships. That started when they were dating.
Wow.
So we go out and talk to young people about what is a healthy relationship, and asking them what they think is okay or not okay is very illuminating, because there are a lot of youth out there that think that there are certain behaviors that are okay and acceptable, and in our eyes, with what we know, there are clear signs that this young man is going to grow up to be a serious abuser.
Wow. Well, Nancy, we're going to go to a quick break, and when we come back, we want to talk about the clay shoot that is coming up. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Tea Time. I've been talking with Nancy Bryan, and she is with Roost Cottage and Patty Cake House right here in Tifton. But it actually covers more counties than just Tifton, right?
That's right. We cover the Tifton Judicial Circuit, and the circuit's made up of Tift, Turner, Irwin, and Worth counties.
Gotcha. Well, now, Nancy, I know before we actually even started filming, you told me a little bit about the logo. And Roost Cottage has the logo. It's a little house, and it's got 3 doors. I guess I've never noticed it before, but you told me that the 3 doors actually have meaning behind them. They
do. And the intention of the organization when it began was that eventually it would be an organization that had 3 state-certified programs: the Domestic Violence Prevention Program, a Child Advocacy Center, but also a Sexual Assault Program. And that's the program that we don't have yet, but we're really hoping to bring that in the next few years, maybe even sooner.
So the one that you don't have in is which one?
The Sexual Assault Center.
Sexual assault.
In our judicial circuit, we sort of provide that service in a way. We don't, but the TIF Regional Health Systems has a SANE nurse, and SANE stands for Sexual Assault Nurse Exam. And they're down to one right now who is trained to do sexual assault exams on adults. But we are looking to also provide a pediatric SANE program through Patty Cake House. And back to what the hospital does for sexual assault exams, they can provide the exam, but there is no one who does advocacy on behalf of sexual assault victims. So that's where we're wanting to go next.
Gotcha. So if y'all have someone that needs to be examined, where are they going now?
We are having to send them usually to Waycross. They have an excellent program there. And we also send them to Cordeal. And there's an exam program in Albany and also in Valdosta. But the travel of a young child who's been sexually assaulted to get in a car, maybe wait, it could be the next day before they're able to go. They're not allowed to bathe or change their underwear or diaper, if that be the case. And obviously it's an area of the body that they're in a great deal of pain, so to sit down and to travel, it makes it even worse. So we're really wanting to bring the program to Pancake House so that children can come to a place that is local and familiar and to have their forensic interview and exam done on site in the most comfortable environment possible. The good news is that our board of directors has approved us to begin offering a pediatric SANE program. We are currently raising money for it. We've already raised $12,000.
Great.
And the hospital will be helping us with some in-kind support, but we hope to be offering that this fall.
That is great.
It's a huge step.
That is great. Because like you said, I mean, after a kid has gone through such trauma, just to even have to get in the car and go somewhere else, especially with someone that they may not feel comfortable with or even know.
Yes.
And then have to go through the exam and then have to travel back home. That's, I'm sure, very traumatizing.
It's traumatic. We've had law enforcement investigators. They're the ones that take the child and the non-offending caregiver to the other locations for these exams. And they've come to us and said, hey, can y'all get this program? Because they drive down the road listening to these children crying in the back seat and distraught parents. And so they're really behind us getting this program going as well. Everybody's behind it, really.
Wow. Well, let's talk about the Champion of Hope, the Sporting Clays Tournament. It is the 14th annual. Yes. I can't believe it's been going on 14 years.
I know. It started early as a great fundraiser and has just grown from there. It's an important part of our budget because unlike grants, the funds that we raise from this, we can really choose to do whatever we want to with it. And it's just become a tradition.
So when is it, Nancy?
This year, it's Saturday, April 23rd. We have a morning session and an afternoon session. And you can participate as a team of 4, or we'll take individuals or couples. We can work with whatever.
So you can pair them up with somebody else, maybe?
Absolutely.
So what about sponsorship?
Sponsorships are important to us because that brings in the most of the income for the event that we get. And there are 4 levels. The highest level is Champions of Hope sponsor level for $2,000. Then there's a platinum level for 1, gold level is $500, and silver is $250. But even if those levels are beyond your means, we love to take in-kind donations for prizes or food the day of the event or even items for the goodie bag. There really are a lot of ways people could support us if they want to.
Yeah, and you said this is your only fundraiser, right?
That's true. This is our one single fundraiser of the year.
And so you definitely need to
make it work.
Make it work. You're right.
Yeah.
So it has been successful over the years, or you wouldn't be having it for 14 years now.
Right. We've been netting between 30 and 35,000 in the past few years.
That is great.
I'd like to make it to 40. That's my goal.
Yeah, that would be great. So you said it's April the 23rd, and where is it located?
Our location is Green Lakes Hunting and Fishing in Irwin County. A lot of people in the hunting world are familiar with Green Lakes. They don't do a lot of advertising, but it's a great facility. It stays very busy. It's beautiful property. It's owned by Alan Green, and Alan is a huge benefactor to us. He allows us to come on his property with no charge and just have our way, and it's awesome.
Well, you also said that he also does all the cooking.
He does. We've talked to him about want us to bring in food or whatever. He was like, no, I think I can handle it. And he brings out his grills. He smokes sausage. He smokes pork butts. He does chickens. And he has a friend, and they just do all the cooking. And his significant other, who's also on our board of directors, Tammy Harper, she fixes a lot of the sides. And it's home-cooked, good food, and it's free.
That is unreal that he does all that cooking.
It's delicious.
Wow.
Yeah, he's an awesome guy.
So how much are the tickets?
The participation fee is $100 per shooter, $400 for a team. With that, they get to shoot a 1.5-mile course, 15 stations, and they get the food, they get a T-shirt and a goodie bag, and they just have a great time, and it all goes to benefit us.
Well, we're going to take another quick break, and when we come back, we're going to talk more about the clay shoot that is coming up on April the 23rd. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Tea Time. I've been talking with Nancy Bryan, and she is with Bruce Cottage and the Patty Cake House. We've been talking about the clay shoot that is coming up on April the 23rd. It is their biggest fundraiser. Well, it's their only fundraiser.
It is the biggest.
That's right. So
and it's the only.
That's right. So let me ask you this. Throughout the day, you said you have a morning shoot and then you have an afternoon shoot, right?
Right.
And
we encourage people to come early.
Yeah.
For both, because there's food, there's breakfast, and then there's lunch. But there's also the opportunity to play this neat game called Crazy Quail. And it's this machine, and it spins and shoots out targets real crazy. And a team of 2 will try to get the best score they can, and then they compete with other teams for cash prize. And it's addictive.
It is. Well, it's mostly, we don't want to say that everybody out there is a man, because there are some women.
Females. Mm-hmm.
There are some women who come out, but most men are very competitive. I'm sure it's a competitive day that day. It
is, and we try to capture as much as we can on that.
I'm sure it's funny. I'm sure it's funny to see them men.
It can be.
Yeah, see the men out there competing.
Some people get mad when they don't shoot well, but they're in the minority. Mostly good spirited.
Well, now, so the crazy... What'd you
Crazy Quail.
Crazy Quail. So you told me before we came back from break that they actually pay a little fee to play that game, right?
Yes. It's separate from all the other registration and everything, and you can just walk up and say, I want to play, hand over your money, and just do it. And then at the end of the session, we divide the cash prize up, and we keep half, and the winners keep half.
Gotcha.
Everybody's happy.
So the cash prize is how much you make throughout the day on this particular game?
It's for each set.
Okay.
Like people participate in teams of 2, and after the 10th team, we look to see who the winner is, divide up the money, and then start again with the next group.
And you said that it's so competitive that they're like, ooh, I can shoot better next time. Let's do it again. Let's do it again.
A lot of times somebody will shoot, and they're like, man, I bet I can do it better the next time. Which may or may not be the case, but we don't care. We encourage them to do it again.
Gotcha. Well, I know I mentioned that there are a few females that come out there, but what about children?
We have a youth division, so 16 and under are certainly welcome to participate. They need to have a parent with them or some parental permission that we require. And safety is a big thing. We have a lot of rules about safety, and it really is a very safe event. And
you said that you've actually got a few teams signed up.
Oh, wow. We're starting to fill up, so I encourage anybody that's watching to, if they're interested in it, to go ahead and get the ball rolling. We're limiting 20 teams for each session. The morning session is already up to 14 teams, and the afternoon, I believe, is at 9. So it's starting to happen, so if they want to come, they need to let us know.
Yeah, and I also asked you at break about, do you have to walk the whole course, or how does that work out?
There's not a rule that you can't walk, but it would be very surprising because all these hunters, they have all this gear that they have to have, and the guns and whatnot. So, and it's a 1.5-mile course that the 15 stations are laid out upon. So most people have their own ATVs, gators, or whatever they call them, whatever they're riding. But if somebody doesn't have those things, if they let us know and pay a $40 fee, we will provide carts for them to ride in. We're very fortunate. Shiver Carts and Off-Road Power Sports, they provide us with some carts and things for free. That's the way they help us.
Yeah. So, yeah, because most people probably wouldn't want to ride. But now, do they, walk, but do they have to tell you this when they sign up?
Well, when someone signs up, we generally will ask them, do you have your own transportation? And if they don't, then we make a note and make sure that we have that covered for them. The guys that do this a lot and compete in a lot of these events, they almost always have their own.
Well, it sounds like it is a fun-filled day.
It is. And so we're just going to hope and pray for good weather. And if we get that, then we should have a real successful day.
I think you'll get good weather.
I hope you're right.
Has there been many years that it's rained?
Well, I came on board the organization in 2003, so I can't speak for all the past history. But with the 4 that I've been a part of, we had one day that was a little cloudy and a little rain here and there, but no storms. As long as it's not just storming, we should be able to do it.
Well, it sounds like a good day, and what better way to raise money?
Absolutely, and for a great cause.
A great cause. Now, if someone is a sponsor or somebody does donate, it is tax deductible, right?
Yes. We are completely 501c3 status, and we are happy to provide receipts or whatever the donor would give. For those who participate in it, it's between them and their CPA what they do to participate in the tournament. Truly, to have a tax write-off, you would need to deduct what the value is of their participation. It's just like in golf tournaments. This is basically a golf tournament for shooters. So, but the sponsors is 100% a tax write-off donation.
Gotcha.
Because they're not getting anything back, really.
Gotcha. So how many sponsors do you have right now?
Oh, gosh. I'm not prepared to tell you.
Okay.
I do know that our Champions of Hope sponsors of the highest kind, $2,000, we have about 6 of those. We're very grateful for Plant Telecommunications and Plant TIFNet for being one.
Thank you.
And First Community Bank of Tifton and UOG Center and Green Lakes, of course, and Ashley's Business Solutions. And Lord help me not forget anybody else. Oh, Artesian Contracting out of Albany. It's not too late to be a $2,000 level sponsor. And then the Platinum sponsors at $1,000. They and the COH sponsors go on the back of the T-shirt as well.
That is great. So it's not too late to be a sponsor. So if you want to be a sponsor,
That's
how
right.
do they contact you, Nancy?
There are a couple of ways they can reach out to us. Our office number is 387-9697. We have a great website, and they can actually read about the event and contact us and register through the website. And the website is stopthehurtga.org.
Stopthehurtga.org.
Mm-hmm. You'll notice under our logos are the words Stop the Hurt.
Gotcha.
So we've used that for our website.
Makes it real, don't it?
It does. It's what we're all about.
Yeah. Wow. I'm telling you, it just kind of gives me chills every time I talk to either you or Melissa about what goes on right here in our area.
Thank you for letting us talk about it. It's not something people are like, hey, come talk to us about family violence. I mean, it's not what anybody really wants to hear about, but we like to take every opportunity that we have to talk about it because it's important. And it may make people uncomfortable, but they need to know it's the reality. And if it hasn't already affected them personally in some way, it will.
Yeah.
They will run into it somewhere, and they need to know what's out there to help.
And y'all have the resources to help.
We've got them, and we're working to get more to do all that we can.
Well, thank you, Nancy. I appreciate you being on the show.
I'm glad to have the opportunity. It's nice to be able to actually talk for more than a few minutes on air.
That's right. We give you a little bit more time than just, 3 minutes. And we appreciate you being on the show today. And don't forget about the Champions of Hope Clay Shoot, which is coming up on April the 23rd. Go ahead and sign up and register so that you can go out there and have a great day. We appreciate you being with us, and we'll see you next time right here on Plant TIFNet's Wiregrass Channel 3.